The conference hall of the Joint Sniper Training Academy holds 37 officers, 12 defense contractors, and one woman who shouldn't exist. Colonel Brad Holt stands at the podium, medals gleaming under fluorescent lights, his voice carrying the practiced warmth of a man who has perfected the art of public charm. He gestures toward the woman seated alone at the end of the third row. Before we sign this contract, I want to acknowledge our visiting technical advisor. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Chief Warrant Officer Elise Marrow. She claims to have sniper experience, though I couldn't find her name in any official record worth mentioning. Scattered laughter ripples through the room. Elise doesn't move. Her hands rest on a worn, leather bag in her lap. The bag's strap shows salt stains, the kind that comes from years near ocean deployments. Holt continues, feeding on the attention. You know what I love about the sniper community? We keep score. Numbers don't lie. He turns directly to face her. So tell us, Chief, how many kills? Give us something to talk about. The laughter grows louder. A contractor in the second row nudges his colleague. Two captains near the window exchange amused glances. Elise's breathing shifts. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. A rhythm invisible to everyone except Dr. Henry Voss, seated 3 chairs away, who recognizes the pattern from his years working with special operations personnel. She stands. The room quiets slightly, expecting embarrassment, perhaps a stammered excuse or a quick exit. Instead, Elise walks to the center aisle. Her footsteps are measured, deliberate, each one placed with the precision of someone who has learned to move without sound across hostile terrain. She stops 5 feet from the podium. Her hand reaches into the leather bag and withdraws a thick notebook. The cover shows water damage, salt crystallization along the edges, corners worn soft from handling. She places it on the table beside Holt's microphone. The colonel's smile falters. Elise opens the notebook to a page marked with a faded red seal. Her voice comes out flat, without emotion, as if reading coordinates. 412 confirmed sniper targets. Silence crashes through the room like a physical force. Dr. Voss leans forward. His eyes lock onto the page layout, the columns, the systematic notation. This isn't a trophy collection. The format matches chain of custody documentation, the kind used in war crimes tribunals and federal investigations. Holt recovers first, forcing a laugh that sounds hollow. Anyone can write numbers in a book. That proves nothing. Elise doesn't respond. She simply turns another page, revealing coordinates, timestamps, weather conditions, and alphanumeric codes that Voss immediately recognizes as ISR drone reference numbers. May I? Voss stands without waiting for permission. He approaches the table, his forensic analyst's instincts overriding social protocol. Holt steps back, his jaw tightening. Henry, this is hardly the time for... These entries cross-reference satellite imagery, Voss interrupts, his voice carrying academic authority. Target confirmation through independent intelligence sources. This isn't a kill count, Colonel. This is an evidence log. The contractors stop whispering. The officers stop shifting in their seats. Every eye in the room focuses on the salt-stained notebook. Elise meets Holt's gaze for the first time. Her expression remains neutral, but something flickers in her eyes. Not anger, not triumph, something closer to patience. I didn't come here to be believed, she says quietly. I came here to verify. Holt's face reddens. The muscles in his neck cord visibly as he struggles to maintain composure. 8 years of carefully constructed reputation, $20 million in pending contracts, and one woman with a water-damaged notebook, threatening to unravel everything. This meeting is adjourned, he announces abruptly. We'll reconvene tomorrow after I've had time to review these claims. But Dr. Voss is already photographing pages with his phone, and 3 officers in the back row are quietly recording video, and the contractors are exchanging worried glances that speak of liability concerns and due diligence requirements. Elise closes the notebook with the same deliberate care she used to open it. She returns it to her bag, adjusts the salt-stained strap over her shoulder, and walks toward the exit without looking back. The crowd parts for her, not out of respect, not yet, but out of something older, more primal, the instinctive recognition that they have just witnessed the first move in a game they don't yet understand. If you're already hooked on this story, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, this is just the beginning. Special Agent Maya Riggs waits in the hallway outside the conference room. She wears civilian clothes, nothing that would identify her federal credentials, but her posture carries the coiled alertness of someone trained to observe without being observed. "That was faster than I expected," she says, as Elise approaches. Elise doesn't break stride. He's scared. Scared people make mistakes. They walk together toward the building's east exit, past security checkpoints staffed by military police who barely glance at their credentials. The academy sprawls across 40 acres of desert terrain, training facilities and barracks and administrative buildings connected by roads that shimmer with heat mirages. "Voss photographed 12 pages before Holt shut things down," Riggs continues, matching Elise's pace. "That's enough to justify expanding the investigation." It's not about justification. Elise pushes through the exit door into blinding afternoon sunlight. It's about making him act. Riggs studies the other woman's profile. Elise Marrow exists in federal databases as a ghost, a name attached to redacted files and classified operations that even Riggs's clearance level cannot fully access. What she does know came through back channels, a sniper program that officially never existed, operating in regions that officially saw no American military presence, conducting operations that officially never occurred, 412 confirmed targets, in a career that officially never happened. "The contractor attack will come tonight," Elise says, her eyes scanning the perimeter road. "Holt can't afford to let that notebook exist. He'll send someone to retrieve it." "You sound certain." "I've studied his pattern for 3 years." Elise's voice carries no emotion, just the flat recitation of analyzed data. When threatened, he eliminates evidence. When he can't eliminate evidence, he eliminates witnesses. The sniper who took the fall for his mistake 8 years ago understood that too late. Riggs feels a chill despite the desert heat. Staff Sergeant Thomas Whitmore. The name hangs between them. Whitmore, who had been blamed for a friendly fire incident during a joint training exercise. Whitmore, whose career had been destroyed by falsified reports. Whitmore, who had taken his own life 6 months after being discharged. Elise stops walking. For the first time since Riggs met her, something cracks in the woman's controlled facade. Not much. A tightening around the eyes, a slight tremor in her hands that she immediately suppresses. "I was 400 meters away when it happened," Elise says softly. "The real shooter was Holt's hand-picked team leader, drunk and careless. I logged everything. Wind speed, temperature, trajectory angle. The bullet that killed those civilians didn't come from Whitmore's position." "But you didn't come forward." "I tried." The words come out bitter, the first real emotion Elise has shown. "My chain of command buried it. Holt had friends, still does. The only way to expose him is to make him expose himself." Riggs understands now. 3 years of planning. 3 years of waiting for the right moment, the right leverage, the right circumstances to force Holt into making a move that couldn't be covered up. The notebook isn't just evidence, it's bait. Night falls over the academy like a black curtain. The desert air turns cold, temperature dropping 30 degrees within an hour of sunset. Security lights cast pools of harsh illumination across training grounds and parking lots, leaving deep shadows between buildings. Elise sits alone in her assigned quarters, a small room in the visitor barracks with a single window facing the optics storage facility. Her bag rests on the narrow bed beside her. The notebook remains inside, visible to anyone who might be watching through the window. She doesn't turn on the lights. At 22:17, her phone buzzes. A text from a blocked number. "Range inspection required. Building 7, immediate." Elise reads the message twice. Building 7 houses the scope calibration laboratory, where precision optics worth hundreds of thousands of dollars are stored and maintained. An odd location for a nighttime inspection. An obvious trap for anyone paying attention. She responds with a single word. "Confirmed." The walk to Building 7 takes 4 minutes. Elise moves through shadows, avoiding the main pathways, using the gaps between security light coverage that she mapped during her first day on base. Old habits, the kind that keep people alive in places where survival isn't guaranteed. The building's side entrance is unlocked. This raises her alertness from yellow to orange. Training facilities are never left unsecured after hours. She steps inside. The door closes behind her with a heavy click. Then the lights go out. Total darkness. Elise drops low immediately, her body folding into a crouch without conscious thought. Her breathing stays controlled. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. Sounds reach her. Footsteps. More than one person. Moving between the storage racks, trying to be quiet, but failing. Amateurs. A voice cuts through the blackness. "Where's the notebook, Chief?" Elise doesn't answer. She's already moving, using the mental map she created during her facility tour. 3rd rack from the south wall. Turn left at the calibration station. Emergency exit 37 feet ahead. Something crashes, a storage shelf toppling, glass breaking, expensive equipment being destroyed, the kind of destruction that creates plausible cover for an accident. A hand grabs her shoulder. Elise reacts with muscle memory burned into her nervous system through thousands of repetitions. She captures the wrist, rotates her hips, applies pressure to the joint at an angle the human arm was never designed to bend. The attacker gasps and drops. She doesn't break anything, doesn't cause permanent damage, just enough force to neutralize, then release. A second figure lunges from her left. She sidesteps, uses his momentum against him, guides him into a support beam with a shoulder check that sends him staggering. Neither attacker is military. Their movements lack discipline, training, the ingrained responses of combat personnel. Contractors, probably. Hired locally. Expendable. Elise reaches the emergency exit and pushes through into cold night air. Behind her, the two men struggle to their feet, cursing. She doesn't run. Running attracts attention. Instead, she walks at a measured pace toward the main administrative building, where lights still burn in Colonel Holt's office on the 3rd floor. Her shoulder aches where the first attacker grabbed her, bruising already forming. Evidence. She pulls out her phone and sends a single message to Riggs. They moved. Building 7. 2 contractors. Attempted assault. I have witnesses. The response comes immediately. Security cameras. Elise allows herself a small smile. The first smile she's permitted since arriving at the academy. I made sure of it. Morning arrives with the desert sun and a summons to Colonel Holt's office. Elise sits across from his desk, flanked by 2 military police officers who clearly don't know which side they should be supporting. Holt's face carries the controlled fury of a man who has realized he's being outmaneuvered, but hasn't yet figured out how. You're claiming my contractors attacked you, Holt's voice drips with disbelief. In our own training facility, without any provocation. Elise produces her phone. Building 7 security footage shows 2 individuals entering through the side door at 22:23. Power to the building was cut from an external junction box at 22:24. I entered at 22:26 in response to a text message requesting my presence for a range inspection. What text message? The one sent from a burner phone registered to Meridian Defense Solutions. Elise watches Holt's eye twitch. Meridian is the primary contractor for the training upgrade project, the company whose representative sat in the conference room yesterday, the company whose $20 million deal depends on Holt's approval. Interesting choice of communication method for an official inspection. The military police officers exchange glances. This is moving beyond their authority, into territory that requires federal involvement. Holt stands abruptly. This is absurd. You're a nobody making accusations against decorated officers and established defense partners. Do you have any idea what you're dealing with? Elise remains seated. I know exactly what I'm dealing with, Colonel. A cover-up that started 8 years ago when Staff Sergeant Thomas Whitmore was blamed for a training accident he didn't cause. An ongoing fraud scheme involving falsified qualification records and inflated contract bids. And a commanding officer who has grown so comfortable with deception that he's forgotten how to recognize when he's being watched. The temperature in the room seems to drop. Holt's face cycles through emotions. Anger, confusion, fear, and finally a calculating assessment that settles into his features like a mask. You're dismissed, Chief Marrow. His voice has gone cold, professional, the tone of a man retreating to familiar ground. I'm revoking your access to all training facilities pending a security review. You'll remain confined to visitor quarters until further notice. Elise stands. Of course, sir. She walks toward the door, pauses, and turns back. One more thing, Colonel. The notebook you're so interested in? It's not in my quarters. It hasn't been since yesterday afternoon. You can search all you want. She leaves without waiting for a response. The hallway stretches empty and silent. Elise walks with the same measured pace she's maintained since arriving, but inside, her mind races through possibilities and contingencies. Holt is panicking. Panicked men make desperate choices. Desperate choices create opportunities. Dr. Henry Voss intercepts her at the stairwell landing. His academic demeanor has shifted overnight, replaced by something sharper, more focused. I ran preliminary analysis on the pages I photographed, he says without preamble. The ISR codes check out. Your coordinates match declassified satellite coverage from operations in 3 different theaters. The timestamps align with known engagement windows. Elise nods. And there's something else. Voss lowers his voice. Page 47. The entry from 8 years ago. The trajectory data you recorded doesn't match the official incident report for the Whitmore case. Not even close. I know. You've had evidence proving Whitmore's innocence for 8 years, and you never. Voss stops himself, realization dawning. You couldn't. The official channels were compromised. Holt has friends in the JAG office, in an NCIS, in 3 different congressional committees. Elise's voice carries the weight of years spent navigating blocked pathways and buried investigations. Every time I tried to submit evidence through proper channels, it disappeared. Witnesses were transferred. Documents were reclassified. The system protected itself. So you went outside the system. I found someone who operates outside the system. Elise resumes walking, and Voss falls into step beside her. Special Agent Riggs has been building a federal case against Holt for 18 months. Contract fraud, falsified records, obstruction of justice. My notebook provides the missing piece, direct evidence of the original crime that started everything. They emerge into the morning sunlight. Across the training grounds, Elise can see Sergeant Calvin Reed leading a squad through rifle drills. Reed, who worships Holt as a mentor. Reed, who has modeled his entire military career after a man who betrayed everything the uniform represents. What happens now? Voss asks. Elise watches Reed demonstrate a shooting stance, his movements precise, his dedication evident. A good soldier serving a corrupt commander. Now we wait for Holt to make his next move. And when he does, we make sure everyone sees it. The waiting proves shorter than expected. By noon, rumors have spread through the academy like wildfire through dry brush. The visiting advisor attacked. Security footage under review. Federal agents spotted in the administrative parking lot. The $20 million contract suddenly delayed pending additional verification. Sergeant Reed approaches Elise during the lunch hour, catching her alone outside the mess hall. His expression carries confusion, loyalty fighting against growing doubt. Is it true, he asks without introduction, what they're saying about the colonel? Elise studies his face, young, earnest, the kind of soldier who joins for the right reasons and stays because he believes in the mission, the kind who gets destroyed when he discovers his heroes have clay feet. What are they saying? That you have evidence of something from 8 years ago, something that involves. Reed stops, struggling to form the words. Staff Sergeant Whitmore was my instructor during basic. He was the reason I chose the sniper program. When he died, He can't finish. Elise's expression softens almost imperceptibly. Whitmore didn't do what they said he did, Sergeant. He was blamed for someone else's mistake, someone who had the power to rewrite the reports and silence anyone who questioned them. The colonel? I can't prove it yet. Not through official channels. Elise holds Reed's gaze. But I have documentation, trajectory analysis, witness statements, communication intercepts. Everything I've gathered over the past 8 years while watching the man responsible receive promotions and praise. Reed's hands clench at his sides. Why tell me this? Because you deserve to know who you're following. Because Whitmore deserved better than to be remembered as a failure. And because before this is over, you might have to choose which side of history you want to stand on. She walks away before he can respond, leaving him standing in the harsh midday sun with questions that don't have comfortable answers. The afternoon brings escalation. Colonel Holt convenes an emergency meeting of senior staff, excluding Elise but including every officer with authority over facility security. The meeting lasts 2 hours. Voices rise and fall behind closed doors. When it ends, Elise receives official notification. Her status has been upgraded from restricted to potential security threat. Military police will escort her at all times. Her access to communication devices is suspended pending investigation. The noose is tightening, but not around her neck. Riggs appears at her quarters 30 minutes after the notification arrives, slipping past the MP stationed at the end of the hallway through credentials that supersede local military authority. He's accelerating, Riggs says, closing the door behind her. 3 calls to the Pentagon in the last hour, 2 to congressional contacts. 1 to the Meridian CEO demanding immediate contract execution before the investigation expands. Elise sits on the narrow bed, posture relaxed despite the circumstances. He's trying to create facts on the ground. Once the contract is signed, too many people become invested in protecting it, in protecting him. Can he pull it off? The contract signing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Full press presence, military brass, Meridian executives. Elise's eyes carry the cold calculation of a sniper measuring wind and distance. If we don't expose him publicly before then, he wins. The evidence gets classified, the investigation gets buried, and Thomas Whitmore stays remembered as a disgrace. Riggs sits down across from her. What do you need? Access to the signing ceremony. 5 minutes to speak. and someone to make sure the real evidence gets seen before Holt can suppress it. I can arrange federal authority to attend, but getting you inside while you're flagged as a security threat. Riggs shakes her head. That would require Holt himself to grant permission. A faint smile crosses Elise's face. The expression doesn't reach her eyes. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Riggs stares at her. You want him to bring you there. Holt is a performer. He's spent his entire career crafting a public image. Right now, I'm the threat to that image. The mysterious woman with the damning notebook, making accusations no one has verified. What better way to discredit me than to bring me before the cameras and humiliate me publicly? That's insane. He could destroy you. Elise reaches into her bag and withdraws not the notebook, but a small metal object. A challenge coin, worn smooth from handling, bearing a unit insignia that Riggs doesn't recognize. Staff Sergeant Whitmore gave me this the week before he died, Elise says quietly. He told me the truth would come out eventually, that someone would care enough to keep digging. He believed that even when everything else failed him. She turns the coin over, revealing an inscription on the reverse. Truth outlasts silence. Holt has been performing for 8 years. Tomorrow, I give him his biggest audience yet. Elise's voice hardens. And then I make sure he never performs again. Right now, I want you to drop your prediction in the comments. Do you think Elise will succeed in exposing Holt, or will his connections save him? Let me know what you think, and stick around because the next part changes everything. The evening passes in tense silence. Outside Elise's window, the academy settles into nighttime routine. Patrols circulate at regular intervals. Training lights shut down section by section. The desert swallows sound and warmth alike. She doesn't sleep. Instead, she reviews documents on a tablet Riggs smuggled in. Financial records showing Meridian's payment history with Academy personnel. Communication logs revealing coordination between Holt's office and contractor representatives. The carefully assembled evidence of 8 years of corruption, fraud, and cover-up. At 0330, her door opens without warning. Sergeant Reed stands in the hallway, uniform disheveled, face carrying the haunted look of a man who has spent the night wrestling with impossible choices. I need to show you something, he says. The MP at the end of the hall has conveniently stepped away. Elise doesn't question the fortunate timing. She follows Reed through darkened corridors to a storage room near the administrative wing. Inside, Reed produces a recording device. 3 months ago, I was assigned to digitize old briefing materials, he explains, his voice barely above a whisper. I found audio files that were supposed to have been destroyed. Recordings from the incident review board. The board that cleared Colonel Holt and blamed Whitmore. He plays the file. Colonel Holt's voice fills the small room, younger but unmistakable. Cut that section. I don't need truth. I need budget approval. Whitmore's already agreed to take responsibility. Make sure the evidence supports his confession. Another voice, muffled but audible. What about the trajectory analysis? The angles don't match. Holt again. I said cut it. This conversation never happened. The recording ends. Elise stands motionless for several seconds. 8 years of suspicion, finally confirmed. 8 years of fighting shadows, finally given form. Why now? She asks. Reed's jaw tightens. Because I spent 6 years believing I was serving honorably under a man worthy of respect. Because Thomas Whitmore was the reason I became a soldier, and I owe him better than to keep protecting his murderer. This recording is enough to reopen the case. Combined with my logs, with Riggs's investigation, I know. Reed meets her eyes. I know what this means for my career, for the academy, for everyone who trusted Holt, but some things matter more than comfort. Elise extends her hand. Reed hesitates, then shakes it. Tomorrow morning, she says, you might have to choose between following orders and doing what's right. I need to know which choice you'll make. Reed's answer comes without hesitation. Whitmore taught me that following orders is only honorable when the orders deserve honor. I think I finally understand what he meant. They part ways in the darkness. Elise returns to her quarters through the same shadowed route. The recording secure on a drive hidden in her uniform pocket. One more piece of the puzzle. One more nail in Holt's coffin. Dawn breaks over the academy with the promise of confrontation. The contract signing ceremony is scheduled for 0900, but preparation begins hours earlier. Technicians set up audio equipment in the main conference hall. Public affairs officers coordinate camera positions. Catering staff arrange refreshments for distinguished guests. Elise watches from her window as vehicles arrive. Black sedans carrying Pentagon officials. Contractor limousines delivering Meridian executives. local media vans positioning for optimal coverage angles. At 0830, the summons arrives. Colonel Holt requests her presence at the ceremony. The military police escort her across the grounds with excessive formality, making sure every witness observes her apparent disgrace. Officers she passed yesterday without incident now avert their eyes. Staff members who showed curiosity now display contempt. The performance has begun. The conference hall holds nearly 100 people. Officers fill the front rows. Contractors occupy the center section. Media representatives line the back, cameras ready, notebooks open. Holt stands at the podium, medals polished, uniform pressed, every detail calculated to project authority and trustworthiness. He spots Elise being led to a seat near the side exit and allows himself a small smile. "Before we proceed," he announces, his amplified voice commanding attention, "I want to address the rumors that have been circulating about our visiting technical advisor." All eyes turn toward Elise. Chief Warrant Officer Marrow arrived at this academy with claims that couldn't be verified, claims about her service record, claims about her qualifications, claims about evidence that supposedly implicates this institution and its leadership. Holt pauses for effect, letting the implications settle. "I invited her here today so that she could have an opportunity to present her evidence publicly, to substantiate her accusations before witnesses, before the press, before the very people she has attempted to deceive." He gestures toward Elise. "Chief Marrow, the floor is yours." The trap has been set. Elise stands. Her movements remain controlled, measured, betraying nothing of the tension coiled within her. She walks to the front of the room, every step deliberate. The notebook rests in her bag. The recording waits in her pocket. The truth sits at the edge of revelation. She reaches the podium, turns to face the audience, meets Holt's expectant gaze with an expression of absolute calm. 8 years ago," she begins, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of the room, "Staff Sergeant Thomas Whitmore was accused of causing a friendly fire incident that killed 3 civilian contractors during a joint training exercise. He was dishonorably discharged. 6 months later, he took his own life." The room has gone silent. Cameras record. Reporters scribble notes. "I was present during that training exercise. I was positioned 400 meters from the incident location, with a clear line of sight to every firing position in the exercise area. I recorded everything I observed: coordinates, timestamps, trajectory angles, environmental conditions." Elise opens her bag and withdraws the salt-stained notebook. This log contains that documentation. It proves that the shot which killed those civilians did not come from Whitmore's position. It could not have come from Whitmore's position. The angle was wrong. The timing was wrong. Everything about the official report was wrong. Holt's face has gone pale. His confident smile has frozen into something rigid and artificial. "The real shooter was never identified in the official investigation," Elise continues, "because the real shooter had the authority to modify the evidence, to silence witnesses, to destroy careers." She turns to look directly at Holt. "The real shooter was protected by his commanding officer, a commanding officer who, 8 years later, stands before you asking for $20 million in public funds to expand a training program built on lies." Chaos erupts. Officers shout questions. Reporters surge forward. The Meridian executives huddle in urgent conference. Military police move uncertainly, unsure whether to intervene. Holt grabs the microphone. "This is absurd. She has no proof. This notebook is fabricated, a desperate attempt to—" "Actually, Colonel, she does have proof, Doctor." Voss stands from his seat in the third row, tablet in hand. "I've spent the last 36 hours verifying Chief Marrow's documentation against declassified satellite imagery and archived intelligence reports. The trajectory data matches, the timestamps align, the ISR reference codes check out against National Reconnaissance Office records." He approaches the podium, holding his tablet so the nearest cameras can capture the screen. Page 47 of this notebook contains forensic evidence that conclusively proves Staff Sergeant Whitmore could not have fired the shot he was blamed for. The bullet came from a position 17 degrees off his line of fire, a position that was occupied, according to exercise logs, by a team under Colonel Holt's direct command. The room explodes again. Holt backs away from the podium, his composure shattering. "This is a conspiracy. She's working with someone is coordinating. I demand this ceremony be suspended immediately." "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Colonel." Special Agent Riggs rises from a seat near the back, her federal credentials now prominently displayed. 3 additional agents flank the exits, having entered during the commotion. Bradley Thomas Holt, I'm placing you under federal investigation for contract fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to falsify official military records. You have the right to remain silent. Holt lunges, not toward the exit, not toward Riggs, toward Elise. His hand reaches for the notebook, fingers clawing at the evidence that has destroyed him. His face contorts with rage beyond reason, years of carefully maintained control finally crumbling. Elise doesn't retreat. She captures his wrist as it extends toward her, rotates her hip, applies pressure at the joint. The same technique she used in the darkened storage building. The same muscle memory burned into her through years of training in programs that don't officially exist. Holt drops to one knee, gasping. The sleeve of Elise's uniform shifts with the movement. A dark line of ink becomes visible along her inner forearm, partially hidden but no longer concealable. A unit designation that makes Dr. Voss inhale sharply. Numbers and symbols that Sergeant Reed, watching from the side of the room, recognizes from classified briefings about operations that never happened. She releases Holt immediately, steps back, allows the federal agents to complete his detention. The room has gone utterly still, not because of Holt's arrest, not because of the exposed corruption, because of what they glimpsed on her arm, because of what it means about who she really is, because 412 confirmed targets suddenly seems not like a boast, but like a confession of service beyond anything they can imagine. Sergeant Reed is the first to move. He crosses the room to where Elise stands, her sleeves still shifted, her arms still partially visible. He recognizes the marking. Everyone with sufficient clearance recognizes it. Without a word, he comes to attention, snaps a salute. Elise meets his eyes. Something passes between them, recognition of shared purpose. Acknowledgement of sacrifices made and prices paid. She returns the salute, brief, formal, complete. Around them, officers begin to understand. The woman they dismissed, the woman they mocked, the woman they doubted. She isn't just a technical advisor with an implausible record. She is the record, and she has been watching them all along. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to see what happens next. Part 2 reveals the full truth about Elise's past and the consequences that will change the Academy forever. The aftermath unfolds with the systematic precision of military process. Federal agents escort Holt from the building. The contract signing is indefinitely postponed. Meridian executives face immediate questioning about their knowledge of fraudulent documentation. The Academy's entire administrative structure enters emergency review. But Elise doesn't stay to watch. She finds a quiet corner of the parade ground, away from cameras and questions, and the growing crowd of officers who suddenly want to know everything about the woman they spent 2 days dismissing. Her hand finds the challenge coin in her pocket. Whitmore's coin, the one he gave her a week before everything fell apart. Truth outlasts silence. She turns it over, feeling the worn edges, the smooth metal warm from her body heat. 8 years of carrying this weight. 8 years of watching the man responsible receive honors and promotions. 8 years of building a case that official channels kept destroying. And now, finally, the truth has been spoken. Footsteps approach. Dr. Voss settles onto the bench beside her, maintaining respectful distance. The recording from Sergeant Reed will be entered into evidence, he says quietly. Combined with your documentation and the forensic analysis, there's enough to reopen the Whitmore case formally. His record will be cleared. His family will be notified. Elise nods but doesn't speak. For what it's worth, Voss continues, I've worked in military forensics for 22 years. I've never seen documentation as thorough as yours. Every entry, every notation, every cross-reference. You built an evidence file that would survive any challenge. Whitmore taught me. Her voice comes out rough, carrying emotions she's kept buried for nearly a decade. He said a sniper's job isn't just to shoot, it's to observe, to document, to remember what others want to forget. She looks down at the coin. I couldn't save him. I couldn't stop what happened. But I could make sure someone remembered the truth. Even if it took years. Even if it cost everything else. Voss is quiet for a long moment. Then, what happens now? Elise stands, sliding the coin back into her pocket. Across the parade ground, Special Agent Riggs is giving a statement to assembled media. Officers are gathering in clusters, processing the morning's revelations. The Academy's future remains uncertain. But Thomas Whitmore's truth has been told. Now, Elise says, I have one more duty to perform. The Whitmore family lives in a small house in rural Virginia, far from military bases and defense contractors and the politics that destroyed their son. Elise arrives unannounced 3 days after Holt's arrest, driving a rental car through autumn-colored hills. Sarah Whitmore opens the door. Her face carries the lines of long grief, the kind that never fully heals. Elise doesn't introduce herself, doesn't explain her presence. She simply holds out the salt-stained notebook. "Your son was innocent," she says. "This proves it. The man responsible is in federal custody. Thomas's record will be cleared." Sarah Whitmore stares at the notebook, then at the woman holding it. Her hands tremble as she reaches out. "Who are you?" "Someone who owes him more than I can ever repay." Elise presses the notebook into her hands. "He saved my life once, during a mission no one will ever acknowledge. This is the only way I know to save his legacy." She turns and walks back to the rental car without waiting for a response. Behind her, Sarah Whitmore opens the notebook to the first page, where Elise has written a dedication in careful, precise script. For Asajit Thomas Whitmore. The truth outlasted the silence. You were right. The engine starts. The car pulls away. In the rearview mirror, Elise watches Sarah Whitmore sink to the porch steps, clutching the notebook to her chest, shoulders shaking with sobs that could be grief or relief or both. Justice doesn't always arrive quickly, but sometimes, if someone cares enough to keep watching, keep documenting, keep fighting, it arrives nonetheless. Elise drives until the house disappears from view. Then she pulls to the side of the road and allows herself, for the first time in 8 years, to weep. The investigation expands over the following weeks. 3 additional officers face charges related to the cover-up. Meridian Defense Solutions withdraws from federal contracting pending internal review. The Academy initiates comprehensive policy reform, including new protocols for incident documentation and independent oversight of training operations. Sergeant Reed receives commendation for his role in providing critical evidence. His career trajectory shifts from potential disgrace to recognized integrity. Dr. Voss publishes a peer-reviewed paper on forensic methodology in military investigations, citing the case as an example of how systematic documentation can overcome institutional resistance. Special Agent Riggs completes the federal case against Holt, securing indictments on 7 counts of fraud and obstruction. Trial is scheduled for the following year, but in the chaos of consequences and reforms, no one notices a small detail. The final page of Elise's notebook, the page she showed no one, contains a single entry written in code. Coordinates for a location that doesn't appear on any official map, a timestamp from 3 weeks in the future, and 7 words that suggest her mission is far from complete. Active target, Phase 2 initiated, Tower 4. Elise disappears from public view the day after delivering the notebook to Sarah Whitmore. Her quarters at the Academy are found empty, personal effects removed, no forwarding address proceeded. Federal records show her consulting contract terminated by mutual agreement. Military personnel files remain classified. But somewhere in the world, in shadows that don't appear on satellite imagery, a woman with 412 confirmed targets continues her work, watching, documenting, waiting. Because truth doesn't just outlast silence, it outlasts everything. The morning of the contract signing arrives with desert sun, cutting through conference room windows like judgment. Elise stands outside the main hall, watching through glass doors as technicians complete final preparations. Cameras positioned at optimal angles, microphones tested and retested, seats arranged in precise rows for the 100-plus attendees who will witness Meridian Defense Solutions secure $20 million in federal funding, 3 days of confinement to visitor quarters, 3 days of watching Holt's confidence rebuild itself, 3 days of letting him believe he has won. Sergeant Reed appears at her shoulder, voice low. The recording is ready. Dr. Voss has his authentication prepared. Agent Riggs has federal marshals standing by 2 blocks from the main gate. Elise nods without turning. And the colonel? He requested your presence personally. Wants you front and center when he discredits you publicly. Reed's jaw tightens. He thinks this is his victory lap. Good. Let him think that. The doors open. A military police officer gestures for Elise to enter. She walks into the hall with measured steps, the salt-stained bag over her shoulder, the notebook resting inside. Every eye tracks her movement. Whispers ripple through the assembled crowd. The disgraced advisor, summoned to witness her own humiliation. Colonel Holt stands at the podium, medals gleaming, smile perfectly calibrated for the cameras. He watches Elise take her assigned seat near the side exit, flanked by 2 MPs who clearly expect to escort her out in shame before the hour ends. Ladies and gentlemen, Holt begins, voice carrying the warmth of a man supremely confident in his position. Before we formalize this historic partnership between the Joint Sniper Training Academy and Meridian Defense Solutions, I want to address the disruption we experienced earlier this week. He pauses for effect, letting cameras focus on his expression of wounded dignity. Chief Warrant Officer Marrow arrived at this institution with extraordinary claims. Claims about her service record that no official database can verify. Claims about evidence that supposedly implicates the leadership of this academy in misconduct. Holt gestures toward Elise. I invited her here today because I believe in transparency. I believe that accusations, no matter how baseless, deserve public examination. So, I'm offering Chief Marrow this opportunity to present her so-called evidence before witnesses, before the press, before the very officials she has attempted to deceive. He steps back from the microphone, arms spread in theatrical invitation. Chief Marrow, the floor is yours. Show us what you have. Silence blankets the room. Elise stands. She feels the weight of every gaze, the pressure of every expectation. Holt expects stammering excuses. The Meridian executives expect entertainment. The assembled officers expect confirmation that their commander remains beyond reproach. None of them expect what comes next. She walks to the front of the hall, movements deliberate, unhurried. The MPs make no move to stop her. This is exactly what Holt wanted, exactly what she wanted him to want. She reaches the podium and turns to face the audience. Her hand reaches into the bag and withdraws the notebook, placing it on the surface beside Holt's microphone. 8 years ago, she begins, voice flat and steady, Staff Sergeant Thomas Whitmore was accused of causing a friendly fire incident during a joint training exercise. 3 civilian contractors died. Whitmore was dishonorably discharged. 6 months later, he took his own life. The room has gone still. Even the camera operators stop adjusting their equipment. I was present during that exercise. I was positioned 400 meters from the incident location, maintaining overwatch on the training area. I documented everything I observed. She opens the notebook to the page marked with faded red seal. Coordinates, timestamps, trajectory angles, wind conditions, ISR drone reference codes that can be independently verified against National Reconnaissance Office archives. Holt's smile has frozen, the muscles in his neck cord visibly. This documentation proves that the shot which killed those civilians did not come from Whitmore's position. The trajectory was wrong. The angle was impossible. Staff Sergeant Whitmore was innocent. This is absurd. Holt steps forward, reaching for the microphone. Anyone can fabricate a notebook. Anyone can write numbers and claim they mean something. This proves nothing, except that you're willing to slander decorated officers for attention. Dr. Voss rises from his seat in the third row. Actually, Colonel, it proves quite a bit more than that. He approaches the podium, tablet in hand, academic authority cutting through Holt's bluster. I've spent the past 72 hours conducting independent forensic analysis of Chief Marrow's documentation. The ISR codes she recorded match declassified satellite imagery from the date in question. The trajectory calculations align with ballistic evidence collected at the scene, but excluded from the official report. The timestamps correspond to engagement windows documented in after-action reviews that were subsequently reclassified. Voss turns his tablet so the nearest cameras can capture the screen. Page 47 of this notebook contains data that conclusively proves Staff Sergeant Whitmore could not have fired the shot he was blamed for. The bullet came from a position 17 degrees off his line of fire. Voss pauses, letting the implication land. A position that was occupied, according to exercise logs, by a team under Colonel Holt's direct command. The room erupts. Officers shout questions. Reporters surge forward. The Meridian executives huddle in urgent conference. Lawyers already reaching for phones. Holt's face has gone the color of old concrete. His carefully constructed performance crumbles in real time, replaced by something desperate and dangerous. "This is a conspiracy," he snarls, abandoning the microphone's amplification. "She's working with federal agents to destroy this institution, to destroy me. I won't stand here and—" "There's more, Colonel." Sergeant Reed's voice cuts through the chaos. He stands at the back of the hall, uniform pressed, expression carrying the weight of betrayal transformed into purpose. 3 months ago, I discovered audio recordings that were supposed to have been destroyed. Recordings from the incident review board that cleared you and blamed Whitmore. Reed walks forward, each step measured, holding a small device. In these recordings, you instruct board members to delete trajectory analysis that would have proven Whitmore's innocence. You say, and I quote, "I don't need truth. I need budget approval. He reaches the front of the hall and places the device on the podium beside the notebook. Staff Sergeant Whitmore was my instructor. He was the reason I became a soldier. And you destroyed him to protect your career. Holt's control finally snaps. He lunges, not toward Reed, not toward the exit, but toward Elise, toward the notebook that has destroyed him. His hands reach for the evidence, fingers clawing at pages that document his crimes. "Give me that," he snarls, grabbing Elise's wrist, yanking her arm toward him as he tries to tear the notebook from her grip. Elise doesn't release. She plants her feet, rotates her hip, captures his wrist with her free hand. The defensive technique flows through muscle memory, burned deep by years of training in programs that don't officially exist. Holt pulls harder, desperate strength fueled by panic. Her sleeve shifts. The fabric slides up her forearm, pulled by Holt's grip, exposing skin that hasn't seen public light in years. Dark ink emerges into view, lines and symbols that form a unit designation, numbers and imagery that freeze Dr. Voss mid-motion. The tattoo, not decorative, not commemorative, a mark that identifies membership in operations that never appeared in official records, conducted by personnel who never officially existed, achieving objectives that will remain classified for decades. The room goes silent, not because of Holt's assault, not because of the evidence spread across the podium, because of what they're seeing on her arm. Reed recognizes it first. His breath catches. He's seen that designation in classified briefings, attached to after-action reports that described impossible missions accomplished by ghosts. Voss recognizes it second. His forensic expertise extends to military unit identification, and what he's seeing doesn't match any standard organizational structure. It matches something else entirely, something that explains how a woman could document 412 confirmed targets without appearing in any official database. The gasp spreads through the crowd like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. "That's..." Reed's voice comes out barely above a whisper. "That's the Ghost Program insignia." Holt still grips her wrist, but his strength has evaporated. He stares at the exposed tattoo, understanding flooding his features. The woman he dismissed, the woman he mocked, the woman he tried to destroy. She isn't just a technical advisor with an implausible record. She is the record. Every target, every mission, every impossible shot taken in places that officially saw no American military presence. 412 confirmed, and she has been watching him for 3 years. "Colonel Holt," a new voice, sharp with federal authority. Special Agent Riggs stands at the main entrance, credentials displayed, flanked by 4 marshals in tactical gear. "Step away from Chief Warrant Officer Marrow, now." Holt releases Elise's wrist. His hands drop to his sides. The fight drains from his posture, replaced by the hollow resignation of a man who has finally run out of room to maneuver. Riggs approaches the podium, her footsteps the only sound in the silent hall. "Bradley Thomas Holt, you are under arrest for conspiracy to defraud the United States government, obstruction of justice, falsification of official military records, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. You have the right to remain silent." The marshals move forward. Handcuffs click around Holt's wrists. He doesn't resist, doesn't speak. His eyes remain fixed on Elise's exposed forearm, on the tattoo that revealed everything he failed to understand about the woman he tried to destroy. She meets his gaze without expression. "You asked how many kills," she says quietly, voice carrying only to him. "You asked it as a joke, but every number in that notebook represents a mission you couldn't imagine, people you couldn't save, sacrifices you couldn't make." She pulls her sleeve down, covering the tattoo once more. Thomas Whitmore understood that. He understood what service actually costs, and you destroyed him because his integrity threatened your comfort. Holt is led away through a side exit, cameras tracking his departure, the footage already transmitting to news networks across the country. The contract signing is indefinitely postponed. Meridian executives face immediate questioning about their knowledge of falsified documentation. The Academy's entire administrative structure enters emergency review. But Elise doesn't stay to watch the aftermath. She finds Reed standing near the windows, staring at the desert landscape beyond. "You did the right thing," she says. Reed doesn't turn. "I spent 6 years following a man who betrayed everything I believed in. 6 years building my career on a foundation of lies. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have asked questions. I should have..." He trails off, struggling with regret that will take years to fully process. Elise stands beside him, watching heat mirages shimmer across the training grounds. "Whitmore told me once that honor isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing truth when lies would be easier. You made that choice today. That matters. Reed finally meets her eyes. What happens now? Holt faces federal charges. The investigation expands. People who helped cover up Whitmore's case will be held accountable. She pauses. And Thomas Whitmore's name will be cleared. His family will know the truth. Because of you. Because of a notebook I've carried for 8 years. Because I promised myself I wouldn't stop until the truth came out. Elise turns toward the exit. Whitmore believed someone would care enough to keep digging. I just made sure he was right. She walks away, leaving Reed to process everything that has changed. The consequence cascade begins within hours. Holt's arrest triggers federal review of every contract he approved during his tenure. Meridian Defense Solutions faces suspension from government contracting pending investigation. 3 additional officers connected to the original cover-up receive notices of impending charges. The Whitmore family is notified through official channels. Sarah Whitmore, Thomas's mother, releases a statement thanking the investigators who refused to let her son's memory remain tarnished by lies. The Academy announces comprehensive policy reforms. New oversight protocols for incident documentation. Independent review boards for training accidents. Whistleblower protections that should have existed from the beginning. If this story has moved you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to hear that truth always finds a way. The ending of this journey will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. 1 week after Holt's arrest, Elise stands in Special Agent Riggs's office at the FBI field station. The salt-stained notebook rests on the desk between them. The forensic analysis is complete, Riggs says. Every entry checks out. The Bureau is recommending full reopening of the Whitmore case, posthumous restoration of his honorable discharge status, and official acknowledgement that he was wrongly blamed. Elise nods but doesn't speak. There's something else. Riggs slides a folder across the desk. During our investigation of Holt's finances, we discovered payments from sources beyond Meridian, shell companies in 3 different countries. The money trail leads to a network we've been tracking for 18 months. Elise opens the folder. Financial records, organizational charts, names highlighted in yellow. Holt was a node in something larger, Riggs continues. We've identified at least a dozen other compromised officials across multiple agencies. Your documentation helped us connect patterns we couldn't see before. What do you need from me? Riggs hesitates. The question she's about to ask crosses boundaries that federal agents aren't supposed to cross. Your skills, your methodology, your ability to watch and document without being seen. She meets Elise's eyes. The Bureau could use someone like you. Officially this time, with proper authority and resources. Elise considers the offer, a chance to continue the work with institutional support, a chance to pursue the larger network that enabled Holt's corruption, a chance to ensure that what happened to Thomas Whitmore never happens to another soldier. I'll think about it. She reaches for the notebook, but pauses. This belongs in evidence now. It's served its purpose. Riggs takes the notebook carefully, understanding its weight. I'll make sure it's preserved properly, and I'll make sure Whitmore's family has access to copies of everything relevant to clearing his name. Elise stands. One more thing. The last page. There's a set of coordinates I recorded 3 weeks ago, a location that doesn't appear on any official map. What's there? I don't know yet, but the communication patterns I tracked during my surveillance of Holt suggested meetings at that location. Meetings with people whose identities I couldn't confirm. Elise moves toward the door. If your investigation expands in that direction, you might find it useful. She leaves without waiting for a response. 2 days later, Elise drives a rental car through rural Virginia. Autumn leaves carpeting roads that wind between hills and farmland. The GPS guides her to a small house set back from the main road, surrounded by trees that have witnessed decades of seasons. Sarah Whitmore opens the door before Elise reaches the porch. The older woman's face carries lines carved by years of grief, but something new lives in her eyes, something that might be the beginning of peace. You're the one, Sarah says, not a question. The one who proved Thomas was innocent. Elise stops at the bottom of the porch steps. I'm sorry it took so long. 8 years, Sarah's voice wavers. 8 years of believing my son died in disgrace. 8 years of people looking at me with pity, thinking I raised a failure. He wasn't a failure. He was the finest soldier I ever served with. Sarah descends the steps slowly, eyes searching Elise's face. You knew him? You actually knew Thomas? He saved my life during a mission I can't describe in a place I can't name. When everything went wrong, he was the one who got our team out. He was the reason I survived to document what really happened. Tears spill down Sarah's weathered cheeks. He never told me. He never talked about what he did overseas. He just said he was proud to serve. He was protecting you, protecting all of us. That's who he was. Elise reaches into her jacket and withdraws a small metal object. He gave me this the week before he died. He said the truth would come out eventually, that someone would care enough to keep digging. She holds out the challenge coin. Sarah takes it with trembling hands, turning it over to read the inscription on the reverse. Truth outlasts silence. He was right, Elise says softly. It just took longer than either of us expected. Sarah clutches the coin to her chest, sobbing openly now. Elise stands in uncomfortable witness, unsure whether to stay or leave, whether comfort would be welcome or intrusive. Finally, Sarah reaches out and takes Elise's hand. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for remembering him when everyone else forgot. Elise squeezes her hand gently. I couldn't forget. I owed him too much. They stand together in the autumn afternoon, two women connected by a man whose integrity cost him everything, but whose legacy has finally been restored. After a long moment, Sarah releases Elise's hand and wipes her eyes. Will you stay for coffee? I have pictures of Thomas, from before, when he was young and the world hadn't broken him yet. Elise hesitates. Her instinct is to leave, to maintain the distance she's cultivated for years. But something in Sarah's eyes stops her. This woman lost her son. Lost him twice. Once to death, once to dishonor. She deserves more than a delivered message and a quick departure. I'd like that. They sit in Sarah's kitchen for 3 hours, drinking coffee and looking at photographs and sharing stories about a man who deserved better than he received. Elise learns about Thomas as a child, as a teenager, as a young soldier eager to serve. Sarah learns about the missions she can legally hear about, the lives her son saved, the difference he made in places most Americans will never see. When Elise finally leaves, the sun has set and stars are emerging above the Virginia hills. Sarah walks her to the car. What will you do now? The older woman asks. Elise looks up at the stars, the same stars that have witnessed her work across continents and years. There's more to do, there always is. But tonight, I'm going to rest. And tomorrow, I'm going to remember that some fights are worth fighting, no matter how long they take. She gets into the car and starts the engine. Sarah waves from the porch, the challenge coin still clutched in her other hand. Elise drives away, watching in the rearview mirror until the house disappears into darkness. The road stretches ahead, winding through hills that hold their secrets close. Her phone buzzes, a message from Riggs, coordinates checked out, found evidence of meetings matching your surveillance data, investigation expanding. Call me when you're ready to discuss next steps. Elise reads the message twice, then sets the phone aside. Tomorrow she'll call. Tomorrow she'll consider Riggs's offer. Tomorrow she'll decide whether to continue the work with official backing or return to the shadows where she's operated for so long. But tonight, she drives through autumn darkness with the windows down, cool air washing over her face, stars wheeling overhead. Thomas Whitmore's truth has been told. His name has been cleared. His family knows who he really was. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, Elise hopes he knows that she kept her promise. The work continues. It always continues. But some chapters deserve proper endings before new ones begin. The car crests a hill, and the valley below spreads out in pools of shadow and scattered lights, farms and houses and lives being lived without knowledge of the battles fought to protect them. Elise pulls to the side of the road and stops. She sits in silence for a long moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, breathing the night air. 412 confirmed targets. 8 years of carrying a notebook. One promise kept. She reaches into her jacket and withdraws a photograph she's carried since the day Thomas Whitmore gave her the challenge coin. A snapshot taken during a mission that never officially happened, showing a team of soldiers in unmarked uniforms, faces obscured by shadow and operational security. Thomas stands in the center, arm around a younger Elise, both of them smiling despite the danger surrounding them. She traces the edge of the photograph with her fingertip. Rest now, Tom. You've earned it. The photograph goes back into her jacket, close to her heart. The engine restarts. The car continues down the winding road, carrying a woman who has spent 8 years fighting for truth toward a future where that fight might finally take a different form. Behind her, the stars keep their ancient watch. Ahead, the road leads toward whatever comes next. And in a small house in rural Virginia, Sarah Whitmore sits at her kitchen table, holding a challenge coin and a collection of photographs, finally able to mourn her son as the hero he always was. Justice isn't loud, it's patient, And sometimes, after years of silence, it speaks loud enough for everyone to hear. 3 weeks later, the memorial ceremony takes place at the Joint Sniper Training Academy. General Patricia Caldwell, the new commanding officer, stands at the podium before an assembly of officers, officials, and family members. Behind her, a new plaque has been added to the Academy's memorial wall. Staff Sergeant Thomas James Whitmore, Distinguished Service, Wrongly Accused, Truth Restored. Sarah Whitmore sits in the front row, flanked by her surviving son and grandchildren. She wears the challenge coin on a chain around her neck. Elise watches from the back of the assembly, standing rather than sitting, positioned near the exit. Her presence hasn't been announced. Most attendees don't know she's there, but Sarah knows. When the ceremony concludes and the crowd begins to disperse, Sarah makes her way through the assembled officers to where Elise stands. "You came. I wanted to see it finished." Sarah looks back at the memorial wall, at her son's name finely displayed among honored soldiers. "It's not finished," she says quietly. "It's just beginning. Thomas's story will be told now. New soldiers will learn what happened to him and why it matters to speak truth even when it's dangerous." She turns back to Elise. "That's your legacy too. You gave him back to us. You gave us back our pride in who he was." Elise doesn't know how to respond. Gratitude has never been comfortable territory. Sarah seems to understand. She simply squeezes Elise's hand once, then returns to her family. Elise slips away before anyone else can approach. Outside, the desert sun blazes down on training grounds where new soldiers learn skills that might one day save lives or take them. The academy continues its work, reform but functioning, carrying forward despite the corruption that nearly destroyed it. Agent Riggs waits near the parking area, leaning against a government vehicle. "Made your decision yet?" Elise stops beside her. "The network you're tracking, how deep does it go?" "Deep enough that Holt was just the surface. We've identified connections in 6 different agencies, defense contractors on 3 continents, financial flows that suggest state-level involvement." Riggs straightens. "It's the kind of investigation that takes years. The kind that needs people who know how to watch without being seen." Elise looks back at the memorial wall, visible through the assembly area's windows. Thomas Whitmore spent his career serving in shadows, protecting people who would never know his name. He died in disgrace because he threatened someone who valued reputation over truth. But his truth survived, because someone cared enough to keep watching, keep documenting, keep fighting. "I'm in," Elise says. Riggs nods, unsurprised. "Welcome to the task force. We start Monday." She hands Elise a folder containing preliminary briefing materials. Elise takes it without opening it. There will be time for details later. Right now, she needs to understand something else. "The coordinates from my notebook, the ones that led to evidence of the larger network. How did you know they would be significant?" Riggs's expression shifts to something almost like respect. "I didn't. You did. You spent 3 years building a case against Holt, but you were documenting everything around him too. Patterns he didn't even know he was part of." She pauses. "That's why we need you. You see connections other people miss." Elise considers this. 3 years of watching Holt, 8 years of carrying Whitmore's truth, a lifetime of training and observation and patience, all of it leading to this moment, a new mission, a larger purpose, a chance to ensure that what happened to Thomas Whitmore becomes harder for corrupt systems to repeat. "Monday," she confirms. Riggs gets into the government vehicle and drives away. Elise remains in the parking area, folder in hand, watching heat mirages shimmer across the academy grounds. The ceremony has ended. Officers return to duties. Family members depart for homes where they'll process today's emotions in private. But the work continues. It always continues. Elise walks to her rental car and places the folder on the passenger seat. Before starting the engine, she removes the photograph from her jacket one final time. Thomas Whitmore's smile captures a moment of camaraderie that feels like another lifetime. "New mission, Tom. Bigger target, but same principle." She traces the edge of the photograph. Watch, document, wait for the right moment. The photograph returns to her jacket. The engine starts. The car pulls out of the parking area and heads toward the main gate, toward the highway, toward whatever comes next. Behind her, the academy continues its work under new leadership, reformed by scandal, strengthened by truth. Ahead, a network of corruption waits to be exposed by someone patient enough to watch until the moment arrives. And in the space between past and future, a woman who has spent her life in shadows drives toward the light. Not because the darkness is finished, but because some truths are worth any price to protect. Justice isn't loud, it's patient. And Elise Marrow has learned that patience properly applied can move mountains. The desert falls away behind her, the road opens ahead, the work continues, always.
Never judge people by how they look. The quiet person might be the strongest person. Comment below what were your favorite part. If you like this story, please subscribe and hit the bell. See you in the next time.